Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to The First Line. My name is Massimo Marchiano, and I'm here today with my two lovely hosts, Michael Zingroni and Taylor Snyder. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
We're doing all right, Mass. Fall is beginning to close in on us. Winter is right around the corner. It's actually the first day of December, so happy holidays. Mike, what do you got to say for yourself?
It's getting dark early. I kind of don't like it, but hey, I'm rolling with the punches. But sports are getting into grind time of their season, so everything's interesting, everything's fun, everything's fast. So let's get to it.
Sports are indeed getting into grind time, and speaking of grind time, we're going to talk about these college football games we got going on tomorrow. Speaking of a very important one starting at 4 p.m. tomorrow at the Jordan-Hare Stadium, we got a little saucy game with the Georgia Bulldogs against the Auburn Tigers. I know Taylor here is especially been a big fan of Auburn this season, the way they've been playing and a lot of the upsets they've had. Taylor, why don't you start us off with this game right here and give us a little bit of your analysis on what's going to happen?
I'll start out with this. I think Auburn played a fantastic game, rightfully deserved to beat Alabama on all cylinders of the ball in the second half. Auburn was just the better team, but as we do know, Harrison did go down for Alabama. They were very wounded on defense. They were unequipped, let's say. So I'm not saying Auburn's not good. I mean, they just knocked off number one Alabama, but they definitely did not have the toughest schedule. However, I am still a big believer in this team, and I'll tell you why. I love this team a lot because of the way they not only move the ball offensively, but the way they hold teams on defense. They already played Georgia earlier in the year, and we saw how that ended. That was when Georgia was number one in the nation, and Auburn basically just came on in there and took care of business. So I really don't expect anything different in this game. Overall, just Auburn, I think, has the upper edge on defense. I think they're going to outman them. I don't have the utmost faith in a freshman quarterback in Jake Fromm from Georgia, and I think this Auburn Tigers team will win this game. And if they do, even with those two losses, I'd be very shocked if they're not in that top four competing for a BCS championship. Not a BCS championship anymore, I guess. We have to call it the College Football Playoff Championship now. Mike, what do you think?
So me and Mass were actually having an interesting conversation earlier, somewhat regards of this. So Auburn and Georgia, they're rematching for the second time. The first time Auburn just blew Georgia out, but this is the second time they're playing each other, within the last month. So the big thing about that is it's hard to beat a football team twice in 1 month. I don't think that is a very plausible thing to do. I think that's very hard to do because I was watching Colin Coward. He kind of said is like different motivation factors for the team, and I know me and you were talking about this earlier, Mass. But Georgia kind of has that motivation factor. They're in a neutral site, but it's still Georgia's home state, so they're close to home. And Auburn just beat the living crap out of them earlier in the season. So I think Georgia might be coming back a little vengeance. Georgia saw what didn't work the first time. They saw what worked for Auburn, so they're going to game plan against what worked for Auburn, and they're going to game plan for how to beat Auburn because what could do the opposite of what they did the first time. And I think that's a big advantage for Georgia. And while Auburn, you don't know what Georgia's new game plan is, so you're kind of stuck in the middle. It's really hard to compare films from the game if you won that game. Kind of.
And while I do think that motivation definitely does play a role in it, I think at the end of the day, it was more so the reason why Auburn's going to win this is because of more so the execution and the coaching. Auburn is, as you said, game planning and everything sure goes into it with the motivation, but the only thing that really matters is when it comes to the game, who plays better. And Auburn this year, they've played better than a lot of teams. And even in their losses, you've seen at least a fighting effort. They only lost to Clemson by 1 score. They only lost to LSU by 1 score. And they just beat Alabama in a game that they honestly kind of manhandled them for the most part. Auburn has been a great team this year, just been playing like a crazy. And it's, okay, it has been motivation, but it's also just been good players. It's good. And I do think while the motivation will help Jake, it's brought Jake Fromm this far. At the end of the day, it's who plays better, who gets more first downs, who gets the bigger time possession, and ultimately, and I know this is ridiculous to say, who has more points on the scoreboard at the end.
Well, I honestly, I agree with your point. It's all about coaching, execution, and game planning, but in a sense, game planning for this game, Georgia almost has some sort of upper edge. They saw how Auburn came in. They saw how Auburn dominated them in all facets of the game, so Georgia can tweak to see what would work against what Auburn did. And the thing about Auburn, they know Georgia's not going to do the same exact thing because, that's the, definition of insanity, doing things more than once and they're not working. So Georgia's not going to do that. So Auburn sort of has to guesstimate what Georgia's game plan will be off their current playbook of what they've seen, while Georgia's just going, like, okay, this is what Auburn will do against us, so let's go in and beat this. So Auburn's sort of, they don't know how to game plan for this because they won, so it's easy to say, okay, guys, let's stick with the same formula when we won. But Georgia already saw that formula over the course of a whole game, and they can game plan to beat that simple formula. So Auburn sort of has to come up with something different. It's a weird coaching game, but that's how it works.
But Georgia, also remember, Georgia's going to have to figure out a way to stop Auburn. Okay, so yeah, they got destroyed by Auburn the first time. Yeah, they can come out with something new that's going to catch them off guard. Georgia's also going to find a way to move down the ball against Auburn, and also they got to figure out how to stop that Auburn offense. The thing is, Auburn doesn't make mistakes. Taylor, if you want to go right ahead on this.
No, I was just going to say, it's I think it's kind of the inevitable that the last time Auburn played Georgia, they dominated them on every side of the ball. Well, a big reason why they were able to dominate them so well is the way they ran the ball with Kerryon Johnson. Now, Kerryon Johnson did sustain a shoulder injury versus Alabama. That's something to keep in mind. If he's not at full health, they'll still be able to get the ball moving with Jarrett Stidham at quarterback. But overall, one guy that really was absent in the first meeting was Nick Chubb. I mean, Auburn's defense is top notch. We know that already. We know Auburn's defense is top notch, and we can say, oh well, they're top notch, and Jake Fromm's the freshman quarterback, and Auburn has just a little bit more experience at quarterback with that sophomore quarterback. But what this is really going to come down to is who gets that ball moving, because the difference the last time was Auburn got that ball moving and they got it moving fast. But Georgia's playing at a neutral site now. This is the former Georgia Dome. I guess the Mercedes-Benz Stadium now. So I really hope. I really look for Georgia to really get that ball moving early on, because I feel like if they take too long to really get that ball down the field, score points, Auburn's defense, is strong. So they got to really try to overcome that defense early if they want any shot of really taking this away in the second half, because both offenses are good. I just really think Auburn's is better, and that's why it's up to Georgia to really move that ball on the other side.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big factor. Georgia's not playing in Auburn this game. They're playing in Atlanta, a short ride from Athens. So they're in their home state. They don't have to go against, an opposing SEC crowd. They've seen that team once. The freshman quarterback has seen that team once, so he's not a freshman quarterback coming in against Auburn. He's already seen them once, so he has some experience against Auburn. He might not have experience in an SEC championship game, but when it comes down to it, he's playing against Auburn, so he has experience against that team. He's seen it before. I mean, does that mean he's going to come out and throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns this game? No, he's probably still going to struggle. He's a freshman and stuff, but just some sort of familiarity will help. Just knowing that you have seen that team before and seen what's going wrong, and you just put that in the back of your mind, and it's always there to reflect on while you get better. And they sat on this loss for almost about a month. So I mean, that's why I kind of like Georgia. I think they're trending up, in my opinion, coming into this game, because in reality, I mean, that game really doesn't matter, because honestly, at the end of the day, you're going to have to win this game to get in. So that game doesn't matter. Just reflect on game film, reflect on what went wrong, fix things up, and come in with a different mindset, and they can be really poised to win this SEC championship game.
All right, so I want to move on to another game now, but let's get a final score prediction from everyone. I'm going to go with Auburn winning this one a solid 33-17. It's going to be a little bit closer, but I'm still going Auburn with the 2-score lead.
I'm going to go with Auburn here. It's going to be way closer than it was the first time. I really expect actually Georgia to come out earlier, firing a little bit better than they did last time around. I think it's going to be 17-10 Georgia at the half, but overall I think Georgia's defense is going to get gassed if Auburn starts moving that ball. I like this game to be either 2028 or 2031. I really do think Auburn's going to have a huge second half.
I think Georgia's going to come out and put some work on Auburn's offense early and often, but Auburn will get some points on the board, but I think Georgia will prevail 20-16 when it's all said and done.
All right, I like that score. All right, guys, I want to ask you guys what game you'd like to move on to next. We have Wisconsin versus Ohio State, and we also have Miami versus
Clemson. I mean,
Clemson, Jesus, I am sorry about that.
We can go Clemson-Miami, because I know we have some differing opinions about that one.
I think Clemson-Miami, we'll start with Clemson-Miami, but don't fret away from that Wisconsin-Ohio State game. I've had my eye on that one for a while.
We'll get to it.
But let's start out with Clemson-Miami. So obviously 1-7 ACC title game. Miami just lost on the road in Pittsburgh to Pitt at Heinz Field. Devastating loss, really hurt their playoff chances. I want to start out by asking you, Mike, in the scenario that Miami does win this game here on Saturday at 8 o'clock in Charlotte, North Carolina, do you think they are deserving to be in that top 4 position?
Okay, if Miami wins this game, but all the other teams take care of what they should do, meaning Wisconsin wins, Oklahoma wins, and and Auburn wins, or Georgia. I mean, it really won't matter who wins that game, but if the other teams take care of business, I don't think Miami should be a top 4 team. I think if Miami beats Clemson, I think Alabama should slip up and take Clemson's spot. Not a number 1, but in the top 4.
Right.
So I don't think Miami's deserving it unless they get some help, in my opinion, because I don't like the way Miami plays down to opponents and up to certain ones and like really fluctuates. Because watching Miami throughout the season, you haven't got the same team. Right. I mean, they same result for majority of the year, but you haven't got the same team, same consistency, game in and game out.
Right.
And I think that's a big problem considering if you want to be a top 4 team in the nation.
And I think a big thing to look at, and the reason why Alabama is not in the top 4, Alabama has 1 loss, and a lot of people would argue, why aren't they in the top 4? It's because they had a patty cake schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, in this college football era, with this playoff now, they're going to evaluate everything. And a big thing they've evaluated, and we've seen they've evaluated over the past year and so, with Penn State, Ohio State last year, is that Miami did not have the strength of schedule. So that 1 loss to Pitt, while this has been a remarkable year, the 10-0 start, the great defense, turnover chain, and all the glam, like Miami's football's back, that 1 loss to Pitt may do their, any hope of getting in that playoff.
It did it to Penn State.
Because even if they do beat Clemson, in the scenario that they beat Clemson, they're going to need help. And
Yeah,
I'd like
100%.
to say 11-1, that record alone could maybe slip you into number 4. But when I really look at the schedule, the only impressive wins that really stick out to me is a Virginia Tech win, 28-10. And Virginia Tech, honestly, this year kind of slipped back there at the end, towards the end of the season. A Notre Dame team who wasn't everything we would have wanted them to be, a pretty solid Notre Dame team. So overall, when I look at their schedule, though, those are really the only 2 impressive wins I see. I see a win over a 27-19 Syracuse team who, ironically, is the only team to hand Clemson a loss right now. And, Clemson's sitting there at the number 1 spot.
Yeah, but that win against Syracuse, that win against Syracuse doesn't put much. I mean, in my opinion, because they beat Clemson, but I mean that I think that's a bigger detriment on Clemson's record that losing than Miami winning against Syracuse.
I don't think a win versus Syracuse legitimizes you. I just think it's ironic that they beat Syracuse and the number 1 team in the nation who's 6 spots up.
Well,
I think that's a big hurt for Clemson.
If you look at Clemson's schedule, actually, they kind of haven't really played any tough teams either.
Yeah.
You could argue that Auburn, Louisville, and Virginia Tech, but I wouldn't. Is Louisville really?
I think they got them at 1 because of the respect they're giving to Auburn right now.
I mean, they are.
No, I think they have them at 1 because they won a national championship last year.
Yeah,
I think they should be the number 1? No, I honestly think they shouldn't be a top 2 team.
Strength of schedule, like who did you play? Did you play?
Okay, well then who would you be your number 1 right now? If Clemson's not your number 1, who do you think deserves number 1 in that top 4? It's an honest question because when I look at it overall,
I would say Oklahoma.
Yeah,
I'd say Oklahoma too.
I would say Oklahoma too.
Baker Mayfield's the best player in college football.
And you have wins
talking about Sam Darnold and John. Oh my gosh.
Because Wisco at 12-0 isn't really flooring me. You know what I mean? A 12-0 Wisconsin team. You want to talk about strength of schedule. Look at Wisconsin's schedule right now. That's something that I mean, Wisconsin's sitting there at the number 4 spot despite being 12-0. I'd take an 11-1 Oklahoma team over.
See what you do to us, Miami. First, we want to talk about your game, and now you've just brought us down to this top 4 talk.
I'd
stand you.
No, I'd take an 11-1 Oklahoma over any of these 4 teams right now. I really would.
I think Oklahoma has a real shot of winning this whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. But, I mean, just to get back to, I guess, where we were at with Miami and Clemson coming up, steer away from that whole prediction of if Miami should get any, cut all that. Overall, this game in general, Mike, what do you expect this game from Miami losing to Pitt and playing a number 1 Clemson team?
I think Clemson's going to take care of business, and I think they're going to take care of business fairly easy in this game. Do I think it will be a game? Yes. It won't be like a 3-score, 4-score blowout, but it won't be a 1-score game. I think Clemson wins this by like 14 points. Kelly Bryant, he's healthier now. He wasn't healthy for the Syracuse loss, which I think they should still beat Syracuse even if you don't have your quarterback. I mean, if you're the number 1 team in the nation, I get it if your quarterback goes down and you lose to a team, but you're the number 1 team in the nation. You should be able to beat Syracuse. I mean, if your quarterback goes down, because injuries do happen in football, you got to take account of that. So that's one of my big reasons why I don't think they should be the number 1. But I think they're still going to roll over Miami because I don't like the way Miami played against Pitt. I don't like how they play down to opponents sometimes. Then Notre Dame, they blow them out. But like Notre Dame's overrated also. I just like Clemson to take control of this game with their defensive line. Just really bully Miami because I don't think Miami's ready yet. I think Miami would be good. they'll put up a fight, but they're not ready yet to fight Clemson.
Clemson just had more complete wins. Even if they aren't against good teams, they've just had better wins. The wins that you get when you.
I mean, because at the end of the day, like, the regular season doesn't matter now. They got themselves to that point, so what they did in the regular season does not matter. We can throw that out the window. And it comes down to roster and coaching, and I just think Clemson has won a national championship before. They went to the last two. They know what it takes to get into the playoffs, and I feel like they will get it done in this championship game because they're the two-time reigning ACC champions. And I don't think Miami poses a big enough threat for me because I can't trust Miami in any facet to show up this game because I know in any given moment, any one of those facets could shut down and be non-existent for 60 minutes.
Taylor, do you have a different opinion?
Something to note is 3 years ago, Miami lost to Clemson 58-0. We all remember that. We watched that game on TV. Remember that? And people were like, what is going on with Miami? Is this the nail in the coffin on Miami football? Well, they have a chance to redeem that, a 58-0 embarrassment. How they will do that, I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing for sure is Malik Rozier at the quarterback position has to play way better than he played versus Pitt if they want any chance because Miami is just, listen, in comparison to Clemson, Mark Wright's a great coach. We saw what he did at Georgia. I like Mark Wright. I think he's a great coach, and I think he's good for Miami football. But this is Dabo Swinney on the other side of the football here. He's played in back-to-back national championships. Like Mike said, back-to-back ACC title games here, and this is in North Carolina, a little bit closer to Clemson in comparison from Miami to Charlotte. So I think Clemson's going to have the home field advantage here. Listen, I have not given up on this Miami defense, 7th-ranked Miami defense. I really like them a lot. And Kelly Bryant was hurt there for part of the season, so he doesn't quite have the stats that Rozier has, but when you compare the two quarterbacks, I trust Kelly Bryant I think Rozier stepped up great. He had a couple of comeback wins late in games, but that kind of builds off Mike's point. When you're playing Clemson for an ACC championship game, you can't really rely on Malik Rozier to, pull through for you in the fourth quarter the way he did for 4 games all season. They're going to have to keep this game close, and I mean close, because if Clemson jumps on them early in the first half, Miami's going to have a hard time getting that offense moving, especially if this defense doesn't step up the way they're supposed to. So I really, really look for this defense to come fired up. They just lost to Pitt, and if I'm Malik Rozier, I'm finding, to the best of my abilities, a way to get around this Clemson defense right now, coached by Dabo Swinney, because, to be honest, this is going to be offense football, and it's going to be a great showdown. I'm going to have to agree with Mike, though. I do think Kelly Bryant's the better quarterback, and they're better coached with Dabo Swinney, so Miami, unless they really get that ball moving, this could be a long game for them.
Okay, so final scores before we move on to Ohio, Wisconsin?
Listen, I think it'll be 21-7 Clemson at the half. I think they're going to have a big first half. I think Miami will pull it between 21-17, 24-17 going into the fourth. I think Clemson puts it away, though, 34-17 Clemson.
It is worth noting before I get to my score prediction, all the confidence we're putting in Clemson, but the last 2 championships, they only won by ACC champions chips. They only won by 1 touchdown against teams that they should have beat handily as well. But I think they get it done because Miami's actually ranked this time versus the other 2 who weren't ranked in the top 10 at the time. So I like Clemson by a score of 28-14. Keep it simple.
And I'm going to end it off. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game for some reason. I don't know why. I'm going to go with Clemson winning it 38-24. Miami's going to get shut out in the second half.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So let's, without further ado,
let's get to the sexy
move on
matchup.
to our America's favorite college football team, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Yay! All right,
Ohio State.
Joey Bosa's pretty cool.
Can I start this out right here? So we got Ohio State, who I think is severely overrated this season, versus a Wisconsin team that I don't know is overrated, 12-0. I don't know what to expect out of this. I feel like Wisconsin being 12-0 should beat Ohio State, but I mean, JT Barrett's been limited. I think he will play this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, but he's been pretty injured quite recently. Mike, do you think Ohio State's going to manhandle him, or do you think Wisconsin's going to live up to 12-0?
I kind of like Ohio State coming into this game. You have a valid argument with Wisconsin not playing anybody. They still deserve the number 4 seed because you are 12-0, playing in one of the better conferences in college football. So that's just a given that they're a top 4 team listed as of now. But Ohio State had to play tougher teams, and usually the eastern teams, more eastern teams on the Big Ten, usually beat these teams going past the last few years. At Iowa, a really a team coming in like Wisconsin, right in the top 4. Oh, they haven't played anybody, but they're still really good. Then they come in against Michigan State, and what happens? They lose.
Right.
Then the same thing with Wisconsin last year, even though Penn State was favored. they come in last year. It was like, oh, Wisconsin's a really good team. Look for them to beat Penn State. They deserve to be in, but they haven't played anybody. Let's see what they do in this game, and they lose. And I think that's just going to be another thing we're going to see. And if Ohio State wins, that's going to cause real big controversy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I take Urban Meyer over anyone in this game right now. I think Ohio State's just the better coach team. It's interesting, though, Wisconsin beat an Iowa team who was 30. They beat them 38-14 earlier this season, and Iowa completely just manhandled Ohio State. That's one of Ohio State's 2 losses is to an Iowa team. Listen, I think Hornbrook at the quarterback position, I think he's a Wisconsin quarterback. Every time I watch him, Hornbrook, I think he's great, honestly. I love the way he plays. Number 12, real gunslinger. He's real gutsy out there. But I like
He's got his gutsiness.
I like JT Barrett in this game because he's been here before. He's played on an Ohio State team. He was just more experienced. Ohio State, I think, is going to move the football a lot better. They average a lot more points per game than Wisconsin. I'm going to give Wisconsin a fair fight here, but like you said, Mike, just building off it, I think Wisconsin coming into these big situations, we talk about Wisconsin having to step up and really show their worth, and they haven't really done that. They weren't able to do that when Melvin Gordon was there, and they had that great team. Never forget the Monty Ball days at Wisconsin.
Monty Ball.
Remember when
days.
Wisconsin lost 59-0, and then like a couple years later, they lost another Big Ten championship game?
Yeah. I just think Wisconsin in these big-time situations in comparison to Ohio State. Listen, Ohio State in recent years has won a national championship. They've played in the college football playoff. They were in the college football playoff last year. Like, we're talking about Ohio State here versus Wisconsin. I don't want to disrespect the 12-0, Wisconsin team. They're first in the Big Ten West, but I really just think Ohio State overall is just going to score more, and they're better on defense.
I just don't think Wisconsin's I think a team like Ohio State, like we guys said it, Urban Meyer will just outcoach the Wisconsin Badgers. Growing up as a Penn State fan and now a Temple guy, and now in growing up with someone from Ohio that gave me a bad taste of Ohio. Listen, I got to be honest. Ohio State's a great team. Okay, people want to play for Ohio State for a reason. They're a great football team.
Because they're established football
JT Barrett,
team.
even though he's been there for about 20 years now, he's statistically a monster at Ohio State. Yeah. And that's what they get, even if they don't make it to the NFL. And a lot of these players do make it to the NFL as big-type guys. But at the end of the day, going against Wisconsin, who's historically usually only had good running backs, I don't know. Ohio State's just got it. They're going to win it. They have the better coaching, and they've always had the better coaching. And that's my 2 cents.
I think it's worth noting that JT Barrett got major knee surgery within the last week, and he still most likely could play in this game.
He's a boss.
But that is worth noting that he did get knee surgery, and he's still playing in this game. So that could be another thing, too. Because Wisconsin's defense, they're going to play technically sound. They're going to go back to their fundamentals, a term Mass loves to hear. But no, they're going to play simple defense. They're going to get after the quarterback. They're going to do their best to stuff the run, and Wisconsin's are usually big and strong teams. And without JT Barrett, you have a freshman coming in, Dwayne Haskins. He's talented. Urban Meyer's going to get himself a talented quarterback. That's obvious. And he had a lot of nice throws in in the game against Michigan. While watching that game, he did have a lot of throws that you like to see out of a young quarterback. So it might not hurt that bad, but I think that is worth noting that Wisconsin could take advantage of. Could take advantage of a team that could have a really banged up quarterback or possibly a freshman quarterback making his first start.
I think it's also worth noting, I'd like to give a shout out back home for anyone back home listening to this, that Dwayne Haskins is from Potomac, Maryland. Played at the Bullis School. Shout out to my friend Alex Trippi playing lacrosse at University of North Carolina right now. My other friend Brian Weingass also playing lacrosse at Ohio State right now. He also went to the Bullis School. So that's pretty awesome. I did not know he played at Bullis. Very good football team. Got to give DC a shout out there real quick. But I'm going to have to agree with you, Mike. It's kind of inevitable to say just, oh, yeah, JT Barrett, you're going to get that knee surgery, and you're going to go and you're going to give us 4 quarters of the best version of JT Barrett, and you're not going to get banged up at all. You're not going to get hurt. There is that possibility that Ohio State may have to bring in a backup quarterback. The question is, if in that scenario, do you think Wisconsin's going to win this game if automatically?
No.
Is JT Barrett the key for Ohio State?
No, they've done it before. Remember Cardale Jones? And he destroyed Wisconsin 59-0. That's the thing.
But Urban Meyer. But Urban Meyer's gonna have some nice backup quarterbacks, and Dwayne Haskins made some nice throws against Michigan. And I'm reading this tweet right now. They're not 100% sure. JT Barrett has been cleared, but they're not 100% sure they're gonna play him. So it says look for running backs J.K. Dobbins and Mike Weber to factor in tomorrow as they maneuver around Barrett's injury. That's
I found that
That's pretty
if any
interesting.
team,
That's
though,
pretty interesting.
Ohio
Wisconsin is pretty good against the
Ohio
run,
State
though.
and Alabama, I think, are the two best teams in Division One in regards to swapping players in and out every single year, being able to adjust.
Exactly. Adjust, yeah.
And this is Urban Meyer. I just really think, like, you made a great point, Mike. Wisconsin in big games. We talk about Wisconsin in the big game. They're 12-0, and they got this great opportunity, but I don't see it like a really elite football team when I look at their strength of schedule and I look at just them in general in comparison to Ohio State. While Ohio State may have 2 losses, they've had a tougher schedule. They've been here before. They were just in the playoff this past year, and they have the offense. Now, health, is going to be a big thing, especially if JT Barrett goes down, but I really think this team is just going to cut up that Wisconsin defense with the amount of points they're scoring per game, with the amount of yards they're averaging, with JT Barrett, his ability to move the ball down the field, Urban Meyer in these big situations. Wisconsin's going to have a lot on their plate, despite being, I guess, technically would be the favorite, but Ohio State's actually favored by, 9 points in this game, actually.
It's 6 now.
Is it 6?
Yeah, it's 6 now.
They
Wasn't it?
switched. I
Yeah,
thought it was 9 points.
It's 6 now.
Well.
It's going to come down to whether Wisconsin can stop the run, because Ohio State, with uncertainty at the quarterback, they're going to come into this game with a focus on running the ball, because quarterback really doesn't affect running the ball. So if they can establish the run, they'll be fine, and Ohio State's going to look to do that. But Wisconsin's only letting up 80 rush yards per game, and so that's what it's going to come down to, the offensive line for the Ohio State Buckeyes versus the defensive line of Wisconsin Badgers. If the defensive line for Wisconsin can win that matchup, they can win this game. But I don't think they're going to win that matchup because Urban Meyer knows he has to run the ball, so he's going to make sure they can run the ball. I have a feeling he could do that because he sniffs a playoff berth right here. And whether you like it or not, Ohio State always has a way to sniff a playoff berth somehow. So it's right there, and I feel like they can take advantage of it.
So before we move on now to another football team that maybe isn't as important as these guys right now, let's hear some final score predictions for this matchup right here.
Okay, so I'm still sticking with Ohio State. I like them in that matchup. It's going to be close, but I think I think we're going to go even on the spread. I think it's going to be Ohio State Buckeyes 30, Wisconsin Badgers 24.
I actually expect this game to be relatively close. I feel like Big Ten games, they're kind of that nightcap on the big day of conference championships. I think we're going to have a great game. I think this game could come down to that final drive, 24-21 Ohio State.
I love this because I'm the only one in here who thinks Ohio State is going to completely destroy Wisconsin. I'm going 45-7. Wisconsin, to me, is like that really nice video you see at Blockbuster. It's a really old reference here. I know,
Okay.
I'm 85.
Blockbuster. Oh.
When you're at Blockbuster,
What's that?
Guys, when we were kids, we go to that video rental
go to
store. You see
Blockbuster
something
all the
and it's like,
time.
you want to get that. It looks good. So
Nope.
you get it. And then you get it and you bring it home and you realize it's just a complete waste of time. It's garbage. Oh, Wisconsin, to me, isn't a team that belongs in the top 4, and Ohio State's going to show them why this weekend, and they're
Okay.
going to show them why big time. That's it.
Well,
Okay, so we got. All right. Well, since we're majority in favor of Ohio
Oh, I thought we
State.
were moving to Temple, but okay, all right. Now I see what we're doing here.
Yeah, well, since we're
We are moving to
well,
important stuff.
we have to touch on this real quick
We do have to
because
touch
since
on
we
this.
all think Ohio State is going to win, do they deserve a playoff berth if they win? I'm gonna say my answer, short answer, no.
no,
Go
absolutely
ahead.
not. Absolutely not.
No,
2
okay,
losses.
good.
I say absolutely not. They lost to Iowa. I'm sorry, but listen,
true.
if somehow that college football playoff committee is in there with their Starbucks and their English crumb cakes, and they somehow find a way to get Ohio State back in this playoff this year, I may just quit the show as it is because listen, I just think even with those 2 losses and Urban Meyer and all that, Ohio State should not be in this playoff, regardless of a win versus Wisconsin. I really don't think so. No.
Okay. What do you think, Mass? Do you think they make the playoffs? Would you like to see Ohio State in the playoffs?
I don't think Ohio State's going to make the playoffs. I just think they're going to get Wisconsin out of there because it's time for a real football team to get into that top 4.
All right, so let's talk about this matchup right here. The UR Salt that I got at Oklahoma and TCU. Then we'll figure out what our playoffs
I'm going to
looking
buy
like.
my Maker Bayfield jersey. Yeah, my Baker Mayfield jersey.
I'm gonna get myself an Andy
Season
Dalton
is this.
TCU jersey and root against you for this game.
Andy Dalton.
How's that sound?
I'm down for that.
All right, that sounds really good. All right.
We're still going to split a pizza. That's all that matters.
Yeah, well, this is another rematch. We have the rematch. We have the other rematch with Auburn and Georgia, but we have this rematch, Oklahoma TCU, and I still like Oklahoma to this rematch because Oklahoma is the best team in the nation, in my opinion.
Oh,
Taylor, I know
100%.
you agree with me. Mass, I know you agree with me
Yeah.
as well.
Yep.
But can
There's no disagreement there.
TCU pull off this upset? Because they can.
No, they
Little
can't. They can,
TCU?
but they can, but they won't because Baker Mayfield's winning the Heisman
Okay.
and is playing at the
Okay.
top of his game right now. And I know there's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of talk about the Kansas game. I really think that's washed away. I think it's in the back door. I think Baker Mayfield's going to step up big, and I really do think he's just going to prove front and center why he is the Heisman. It's 12:30. It's right off the bat. We're going to get that game early, so it's going to be the first. I believe the first one of the day. wake up, have some breakfast.
Oh
watch
yeah,
Oklahoma.
it's at 12:30 right there on
I think
Fox.
Kenny Hill's actually a great quarterback overall. I think TCU's not a bad football team. I think they've fallen off a little bit. They had a lot of potential there at the start of the season, and getting in that top 4 spot there at one point. But Oklahoma's just a better football team overall with Baker Mayfield, offense, Anderson at the running position. They have great receivers in Brown. I know TCU has been known to move the ball, so I think Oklahoma's defense actually may be the only thing that they'll be able to expose in this game. But listen, Mike, you said it best. I think you said it last year on the show that the Big 12 is not about defense; it's about who can score.
Yeah, it's all about who can.
56
Yeah,
points.
exactly. Who can put up 45 points? If you can put up
And-
45 points consistently, you will be in the Big 12 championship
and
game.
Oklahoma can do just that because they're averaging 45.3 a game this season.
Boom,
So
there you have
That's pretty much just answers the question.
Wow.
right there.
Exactly.
That's actually cool.
I think it answers the question overall.
TCU.
had enough
While we
good
say this,
dominance in
TCU is doing it with some offense, but they're kind of doing it with defense too. Only giving up 15 points per game, and you have what I believe is the Big 12 a neutral site as well. I don't know. This is one of the first Big 12
Who is
championship
TCU
games.
Versus, though? Let's check real quick.
They had a pretty
the thing.
decent schedule overall. I remember the biggest matchup.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have a
Watching
neutral
earlier
site game at AT&T Stadium, so we're not in Norman.
I remember
We're
when
a
they
neutral
lost.
site. TCU's got a good defense. They're playing in Jerry World. You know, the big screens could distract Baker Mayfield. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, TCU's defense has a challenge, and they can really step up to it. But they do give up 220 passing yards. Allowed. So their passing defense is an elite, and Baker
And you got the
Mayfield could
best
shred that.
passer in the game. Right?
Exactly, and
TCU
Baker Mayfield could shred that.
TCU has only had one game against a ranked opponent where they have not allowed, or have they allowed less than 20 points.
I mean, Oklahoma legit averages almost 600 yards per game, just
Yeah.
very under it at 593. They almost average 600 yards per
TCU is
game.
like the Detroit Lions.
So, but
Well,
here's the thing:
Oklahoma-
Oklahoma's defense allows 390. So if TCU's offense can just have, defense just have good 2.5 quarters, and their offense have a good 2.5 quarters, they could jump ahead Oklahoma.
Well,
But I think Oklahoma's going to have a good 4 quarters. and that's what's
TCU
gonna
gives
happen.
up a lot of passing yards, but so does Oklahoma. Oklahoma also gives up a
Dude,
lot more rushing yards.
You saw that Oklahoma State game. I mean, how much of the shootout that was. If TCU can have a shootout type offense, but just hold Oklahoma to just 20 straight minutes of score where Oklahoma does not score, and TCU could be in good position as long as their offense shows up. Because Oklahoma's defense isn't elite. Oklahoma's defense can be beaten. It's just a matter of TCU can just string together. I'm just looking for the first 20 minutes. If TCU can hold Oklahoma to 0 points.
That's what happened with Iowa State. Iowa State scored 25 in the second half. held
Exactly.
Oklahoma down to 7.
Exactly. Then look at the third and fourth quarter. Only had 7 points. It's just, can you have a good 20 minutes to a half against this Oklahoma offense where you shut them down, where they don't get any more than 10 points? Because if you can do that, you can hold them under 28 points. And just any offense going up against Oklahoma's defense, I'm confident in a team putting up 28 plus points against that.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of TCU can just string together that good quarter and a half. That's all that matters.
Oklahoma blew them out in the first half the first time they played each other. They played each other this past season. They won 38-20. So I do agree. I think TCU has a great quarterback, yet I feel like they're not utilizing that. You know what I mean? Like they should be getting off to these great starts. Like I said, they're a fast football team. They move the ball fast. They get it down the field, and it's a fast-paced offense. So I really think TCU can. You said this is in Texas. That's something to note. But I think they can win this game. It's just a matter of how will their defense play and how will they match up versus Baker Mayfield. Because if Baker Mayfield can shred up that passing offense like he did the first time they met each other, it's going to be a long second half for TCU. I think the first half's going to decide this game. I honestly do.
Oh yeah, I think it's all going to be decided within the first 20 minutes. We're going to know who wins this game.
Yeah.
But I mean, you single out certain highlights in different matchups like Ohio State Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin's defensive line versus Ohio State offensive line in my opinion. But this game, I'm looking at one person and one person only, Kenny Hill and TCU. He's dynamic. He can make some plays. I was watching a few of his games. I like how that offense moves when it gets clicking. If he can get the offense clicking early and often against his suspect Oklahoma defense, and pray that his own defense and TCU can hold Baker Mayfield and company to some 3-and-outs, some punts, win the field position battle. And if Kenny Hill can take advantage of that, I'm not saying he needs to outduel Baker Mayfield. He just needs to stay in the same ballpark as Baker Mayfield, and TCU has a puncher's chance, and TCU can really have a good chance too.
Yeah, he put up 333 yards, 3 touchdowns the last time they played each other. That defense, this is probably the best game they're going to have to play all season. I know they're supposed to be playing their best game every game, but specifically this one versus a guy who I think we can all agree here is going to win the Heisman, should win the Heisman at least. So,
And-
the second half will be interesting. If TCU and Oklahoma do keep this game relatively close, let's say TCU is within 7 points at the half, I think the second half is going to be a big. I think the storyline in the second half is going to be who's going to be able to run the ball more, because if they can figure out that Oklahoma passing offense, Oklahoma can also run the ball too with Anderson at the running back position. So they're not just a passing football team; they're a good offense and they're a good football team. I think they're just a better team. Like we said, that in the top four, I think we can all agree here. Who do we want to win the national championship? We want Oklahoma.
Yeah,
we want Oklahoma to win the national championship, because out of those 4 teams in that top 4, we trust them both offensively and defensively to get the job done. And I think this is no different. I mean, TCU has lost a couple of games this season, had a pretty decent schedule, but they lost a game to Iowa State. We saw that, and then they lost another close game. So they can keep games close. It's just a matter of how close will they be able to keep Baker Mayfield, who again is playing at the height of his career right now in his senior season, last season at Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think that's just a big thing of it. It's the first game on championship Saturday in college football. Anything could happen, and I'm just throwing all this out there because do not be surprised if something does happen. I don't think anything will happen, but I'm not opposed to the idea of something crazy happening in this game where we have a really tight game and somehow Oklahoma finds a way to let this slip away, because their offense really honestly hasn't had a down game all year, and who knows, this could be it going against TCU for a second time. You never know.
All right, so let me ask you guys a 2-part question.
Okay.
Part 1, what's the score of this game?
I think Oklahoma takes care of them 38-21. Okay. I really do.
Okay. I'm gonna go Oklahoma 41-35.
41-35.
I'm gonna go
Close game. Do you think it's going to be closer in the second half or the first half?
It's going to be a second half game. This game's going to be won in the second half. I think TCU has a good first quarter and comes out strong, but I think at the end, Oklahoma just finds a way to chip away and they win it late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma is going to step on the pedal.
Yeah, but I think this is a game Oklahoma will come from behind.
I think Oklahoma is going to score 21-0 in the third quarter. I think they're going to outscore them 21-0, go on a 21-0 run. I think that's going to be the real decision right there, because the fourth quarter the rest is history. I think Oklahoma is going to have a big third quarter. And I don't know why the third quarter specifically, but I feel like Baker Mayfield, if this game is close, is not going to like that one bit. And I think at halftime he's going to make a lot of adjustments. He's going to see TCU's defense, and I think he's going to shred it up in the big time in the second half. That's why I have him winning 38-21.
What was your second part?
I'm gonna go. First I'm gonna go with Oklahoma winning 30-21.
Okay.
But it's probably gonna be a pretty boring game. I feel like it's just gonna be like double score throughout.
Really?
And it's just gonna end looking like it's close. TCU's probably gonna score a touchdown in the last minute, make it look.
So you think the lunch game's going to be the boring one when I'm out getting my meatballs?
I think this game will be pretty boring, to be honest.
That's
something tells me,
12:30
because I don't think TCU can really compete. But anyways,
So just get the
second
yard.
part of the question.
Get the yard work done while it's sunny.
Just get the yard work done. Do what you gotta do. Get your chores done. Pay your bills. Pay your taxes. Take your loved one out to dinner. Get him something nice.
I take Mike out to dinner. I don't know about you, Mass.
I'll take myself out to dinner.
I don't like your attitude.
I like to go to McDonald's and get myself
A
love
bundle
plate.
box.
No,
a bundle
thank you.
box. That's a treat.
I get a
these
Whopper.
days. No, that's
there.
a treat.
Okay.
Is the bundle
You get a
box.
Whopper.
Hold up, before we
from
get
McDonald's.
30 different copyright, all those infringements or whatever, before we have to pay them or whatever.
Infringements.
I don't know how all that stuff works. Second part of the question, guys. It's too early. It's like 5 p.m. Temple football, bowl game or not? Because let's be honest, guys. Let's just answer this right away, and we'll talk about this later.
Okay.
But we got to just get a quick little yes or no, because we got to move on to our next
Temple
topic.
bowl game. Yeah, Temple will be in a bowl game. Just trying to do a little dive into it, see what bowl
Capri
game they
Sun
can get.
Bowl game.
Yeah, they can get the Capri
Macintosh keyboard.
the
piano
Capri
cleaner,
Sun Bowl game in
2
Italy.
edition.
The Richies at Temple University bowl game.
Roblox. I don't know.
The Anderson Hall.
The
Anderson Hall
Salad
Bowl.
Works bowl game.
The Banderson Ball.
The twisted
Anderson
taco.
Hall
The
Bowl.
YG College Bowl presented by YG. And I don't know.
The Jay-Z Bowl presented by Rock Nation.
Listen,
Gucci
guys,
Mane Bowl
I like Frank
presented by
Newtow.
Allstate.
If we had put him in 5 games earlier, I'd probably be a little more hyped. But
If we
I just-
didn't put him in 5 games earlier, we're in a conference championship. No, we're not. No, we're not. I'm sorry.
We're in an okay
We're
bowl
respectable
game for what Temple is.
All right. But I've been doing a lot of looking up. I've been seeing some Boca Raton against Florida International Panthers, not
Nostalgia.
Florida International. Now I know nostalgia, right? Go back to the Boca Bowl.
We're gonna take it back.
I mean, we can definitely take it back. I would not be opposed to possibly seeing that, because you have Florida International and UMass playing in their matchup Saturday, but. I would not be opposed to a little Boca get back.
I'm not opposed to any bowl at this point. I think it's big that Coach Collins in his first year, something Matt Rule never accomplished, did get us to a bowl. What really pleased me a lot is despite all the troubles this year, being a 6-6 football team, they were very rejoiced. Obviously, I think it's a big deal for the seniors to get that bowl game. A big thing that Mike and I were talking about this past coming week was Temple, despite going to those back-to-back conference championships and even winning one last year, these past 2 years have been the same story. They lost to Wake Forest in the Military Bowl, a game they really shouldn't have lost. P.J. Walker lost that one there in the red zone, I hate to say, but
oh my God!
But here we go though, and here it goes again because we played Toledo in that first bowl game, and what bowl game did we play them in? The Boca Raton Bowl.
And Kareem Hunt ran all over us.
And he ran all over us. So I think overall, I'm gonna have to agree with you, Mike. Everything I've seen and heard is Boca Raton Bowl. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Florida International is a Conference USA team, with Florida Atlantic being such a good football team this past year with Lane Kiffin in that conference now. It's not quite established yet, but COSA is starting to at least build a name for themselves, having an elite coach in their conference now. I think it would be a exciting matchup overall. I don't know about you guys, but I'd be down for Florida, Boca Raton. Let's do it.
That'll be fun. It'll be fun to see. But do you think there's a realistic chance that Jeff Collins can do what Matt Rule hasn't done and win a bowl game? Because that would be very crazy if we can sneak out a bowl game.
Yeah.
We know Jeff Collins going 6-6, but we have 2 straight conference championship appearances under Matt Rule, but lost in both those bowl games.
Absolutely. I think Frank Newtile, I said this a couple weeks ago.
I think we can shock a team in a bowl game if you play Florida International.
Definitely do. I think Frank Newtile's been playing some pretty good football. Stepped up when we needed him to step up. I think he's the guy moving forward. Collins, I think, has really gotten a grip on this team, especially towards the end of this year. A lot of faith is in me with this running game right now, especially going forward with David Hood and Raquel Armstead this next coming year. I think offense looks great. It's a matter of how well that defense will play, and I think they'll play pretty damn well. I mean, they got a couple of seniors. I'm not saying a couple. By a couple, I mean a lot of seniors going, especially on offense, too.
Ooh.
So I think this is personal for Temple. And
okay.
I really do think they can pull out a win here, 100%.
Right, I'm just going to throw out some just some possible bowl games I was saying. So the Bad Boys Mowers Gasparilla Bowl, via Sports Illustrated, they have thus in that against University of Alabama Birmingham. Another website has us in the Cure Auto Insurance Bowl in Orlando.
That's good.
That's a real fun one.
Good job, Temple.
Auto insurance?
We did it.
Yeah,
Okay,
one
guys,
had us in Auto Insurance Bowl against Georgia State.
Let's talk
fun.
about a good Temple team. Let's talk about basketball because I'd rather talk about them.
Well, you don't want to talk about Temple football playing Appalachian State, bro.
No, I'd rather talk about Temple scoring.
So we're in the Bad Boy Bowl. Wait, we're in the Bad Boy Bowl. You guys, we just kind of skipped over that. We're in the Bad Boy Bowl.
Hold on, I'm sorry. I have to stick on that name for a second. Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. That was funny.
Listen, I just want to talk about my friend Damian Moore. Okay, I know I've only met him once, but he's my friend. Okay, and
no, he's an all of our friend. We did a little quick group project.
He's my friend.
No, he's our friend.
He's
our friend.
No, he's my friend.
No, he's our friend.
No, he follows me on Pinterest.
He follows you on Pinterest. Well, excuse me. He sits next to me in Urban Dynamics.
Hey, you can talk about Damian Moore all you want, but Quentin Rose was in my Urban Dynamics group project last year, and he dropped 20-plus points last night. I think we should start out by talking about we can talk about Damian Moore all you want, but I want to start talking about Quentin. I want to start talking about Temple, this offense 4-1. We'll get to Damian Moore. He played fantastic last night, too.
This is a Sweet 16 team.
But, okay, overall, guys.
This is a national championship team.
Overall, guys. 4-1 team, lost to LaSalle. A good LaSalle team, I'll give them that. LaSalle played just better in the second half.
Still.
Here's my whole view on Temple basketball. Temple basketball is very, very good. The only thing that's going to beat Temple basketball at this point, besides maybe Villanova on that schedule, is Temple basketball. Now, if we look at the overall picture here, they're 4-1. The defense was...
Defense stood out.
How about that defense last night?
They just stood out. Yes, they gave up 60 points, but it was at a point where it's the last 4 minutes of the game.
And not only that, we can get a lot done in a lot of different places.
Oh,
we got a player,
sure.
We got a guy for everything. I got a guy.
They were at least 10 points or more throughout the most of the game.
I mean, outside of the first 5 minutes when it was kind of close, I mean, that was it. Like, we just took control and we're leading the whole entire game, and that's why I like to see. We didn't blow it. I mean, it was something we didn't do even at the LaSalle game. Like, it was good that we didn't see this repeat because it could have easily turned into last year where we just see this repeat and we're screwed and we're down the same cycle again and we're not going to make the conference or the NIT. But I mean, it's good. I mean, yeah, it's only one game after the LaSalle game, but it's good that we didn't blow a lead again. That's just great.
If anything,
it's beautiful.
that's even better. You'd rather your team lose early in the season because, like, I know it's not NBA or I know it's not basketball, but look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you want to be on top of the Week 4 power rankings and find yourself losing 10 straight games
and going
because,
long incremental drives down the field?
The thing is, Temple basketball, they lose one game against LaSalle. It's close. LaSalle played like how we kind of compared the Eagles Chiefs games. It's like what 2 to 5 minutes of better basketball, and then the rest of the game was all tight, close.
That's all it is.
Temple has found a way to fix their game style, come back against a team that's on paper looking better than LaSalle.
And they went to the Final Four last year. I mean, even if the only reason they went to the Final Four last year and Sindarius Thornwell is playing for the Los Angeles Clippers, even if he's not there, they still went to the Final Four last year. Yeah. So it's still a name where you'll be picking your brackets at the end of the year. You click on Temple's name and see notable wins or notable matchups. You will see South Carolina 76-60. You will see that, and that's a good thing. You want to build up the resume.
Yeah,
and you kind of want to root for LaSalle now to like see what they can do, see if they can pull off some upsets, see if they can stack your resume as well.
Well, I really do think this team should be 5-0. I think the announcer said it best in that LaSalle game. Temple's really, really good. They've just, they got to work on late in games and keeping games under control because, like Mike said, they really, this season, they did not do all of last season that they've done perfect this season is controlling games. Even when they get those leads and teams come back, Clemson kind of inched back there. They controlled it. They won that game. Auburn came back. They controlled it,
Yeah, even Old Dominion to an extent.
Old Dominion gave them a little push there at the end. And that win versus South Carolina last night, that was the first time in over a year where I saw a Temple basketball team who, we've seen that whole story of Temple starts out well and they collapse, or they start out these games firing and then the second half they're just gassed. But this is the first time where Temple took it early on and South Carolina really just had no chance. I mean, I'm going to say they completely whacked South Carolina last night, and this team was playing unbelievable defense. Everyone's moving the ball. Damian Moore's got 20-plus points.
And it didn't
Shiz Alston's got 18 points. Quentin Rose has 20-plus points.
Yeah.
There's
South
so many
Carolina
different
wasn't
players.
really making mistakes. Temple was just playing better ball.
They're a better team because they don't only have this experience now and develop players, but there's a guy for everything. They can do everything. Obi's playing well. You got a big man in Obi. You got Damian Moore, who's been fantastic. Quentin, you see Quentin out there on that court. He's getting around top defenders in the league right now, or top defenders in the NCAA, because he can shift it. He can go left to right, lay the ball up. He's quick. He can shoot. Shiz Alston, severely underrated, the point position. I really do think this team is just everyone you need to have is there. And the only people that are really going to beat him is Villanova, because I do think, moving forward, there's a great opportunity with Wisconsin in the home opener at the Liacouras Center. Even though Wisconsin's 3-4, it's still Wisconsin. And you're playing George Washington, who you lost to on a buzzer beater last year. That's personal.
Oh,
and then you play a team over in Marion, Pennsylvania, in St. Joe's. So I really expect Temple to take this out, only have one loss going into Villanova, and especially with a win versus Wisconsin, don't expect this Temple team to not be ranked for much longer.
Yeah, I just like this team just looks very athletic to me, and I feel like a home opener against Wisconsin, I feel like that's a game, honestly, we could very easily win. I'm expecting to win that game, and I'm expecting to win that game by double digits, quite frankly. Yeah. We're home opener, and I watched Wisconsin play a couple of games, and they had a close game with Xavier when they were in Wisconsin, but Xavier was nowhere near athletic as Temple when I was watching that game. Like, Temple, we are seriously athletic. They are... If you compare us to other teams in NCAA basketball, we're a lot more athletic than a lot of those teams. We're one of the more athletic teams in the nation, and that's a fact. Yeah. And that's what I like about this team. So I feel like a Wisconsin game we can very well win, and a Villanova game we can very well win because they're home, and I like that.
A lot of athletes, Mike. You really touched on that point. Shiz Alston is. Because here's how you're going to beat Temple. You can't, because you got Quentin Rose, who can go left to right, lay the ball up, shoot. You got Shiz Alston, who can do that. I think even do that even better than Quentin Rose. I think Shiz Alston could be the leader of this team right now, next to Obi and Encionia, who they pronounced. What did they say last night?
They were saying a bunch of anything last night, honestly.
Yeah,
they were saying something weird.
He's been having a great year, and then Josh Brown. Josh Brown. So you get those three guys who are skilled, fast, athletic, and then you get Josh Brown, who, frankly, I'll give Josh Brown the ball with 10 seconds left in the Final Four when we need a shot. You know what I mean? Josh Brown's that faith you need. And then all of a sudden, Damian Moore just drops 20-plus points last night. There's nothing you can do. Yeah. Devondre Perry off the bench, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, I very well see this team only having 2 losses going into conference play. Villanova is really the only game up in the air for me. I feel like we win every single game, but the Villanova game is going to be a hard-fought game. So going into conference play, when we play Tulane on December 28th, we should only have one loss, in my opinion, because I think we can beat Villanova, but 2 losses at most, saying we do lose to Villanova, and we're looking pretty good, if we only have 2 losses. Because Wichita State, has a loss. I mean, they lost to Notre Dame, but it just comes down to conference play, and if we're rolling coming into conference play, hopefully we won't plummet in conference play like we did last year, and I think we'll be good.
Yeah, I think conference play is going to be huge. Tulane has had a great start. Houston has a great start. But every time I watch Temple and the announcers say the same exact thing, you got to think Temple's going to be ranked higher than they're ranked right now. And you got to think that this isn't going away with the rate they're playing at. Fran Dunphy's been a great coach for us in years past. That's no different this year. I really think he's gotten his step with the guys. The guys have experience now. Quentin's moving the ball better.
So say we keep winning.
Yep.
After what win will it take for us to be ranked?
So I'm looking at the schedule right now. I think Georgia Washington should be a win, will be a win. I think we're going to win 4 straight, so we're going to take care of that. That would get us to 7-1. Unfortunately,
so we'll beat Villanova.
Unfortunately, I don't think we'll beat Villanova, but I think we'll be ranked going into the Villanova game.
I think
we'll get a 23 ranking going into the Villanova game.
It depends how we look those 3 games. If we win those 3 games by double digits, I think we'll be ranked. But if we don't, we won't have a ranking. And if we beat Villanova, we'll obviously be ranked. But if not, and it's a close game, we'll have to go into conference play and win a couple of games before we're ranked.
Yeah, I do. And honestly, they have a lot of respect for that Cincinnati team, and so do I. You can't knock the defending conference champs. Just Cincinnati is ranked pretty high this year.
Because I could see that. I could see us being ranked going into the Cincinnati game.
Right.
I could really see us be ranked going into the Cincinnati game, making that a top 25 matchup to make it, because it's still, to be determined the time and the network, so that could be a game they want to get some AAC action on ESPN, not name Wichita State the new AAC members. They can throw some Cincinnati Temple, which would get some good viewers, because that's a pretty good matchup, Cincinnati and Temple.
Yeah, great matchup.
So that could, so I can see that as a very high possibility going into Cincinnati. 2018 is the new year. We'll be ranked. And I think that'll be a big matchup. So I think we'll be ranked going into Cincinnati.
I got confidence in this team athletically, physically, mentally versus any of these teams in the conference, because even despite Cincinnati being that great team last year, Temple had a couple of close matchups with Cincinnati. Shiz Alston, of course, losing that ball. There were 25 seconds left to lose to Cincinnati last year. This team is very much capable of beating Cincinnati, and I think they can handle any team in that conference, because UCF's had some question marks with health.
I think we can.
SMU, they're not as great as they used to be. I'm really not a big believer in this.
Memphis hasn't recovered since Derrick Rose.
Tulane team. I'm not like a huge believer in UConn this year either. It's Wichita.
Yeah, UConn hasn't looked good outside that Oregon game.
Wichita State and Cincinnati, and I truthfully think this team can handle Cincinnati. I really do.
I think we can too, and I can't wait to watch Wichita State.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, Wichita State coming in this year, it'll be interesting to see, will the AAC get the best of Wichita State, or will Wichita State really prove that?
Yeah, because that's another thing. They're going to be going through a grindstone matchup, a grindstone, with their schedule, because they're playing 16 Baylor coming up soon, Wichita State. Then they got to go through the AAC. They're still going to, why not UConn is not as good as they have been. It's still UConn, so they're going to still pose, a tough little matchup.
So Tim Duncan, I'm sorry, hypothetical question.
Okay.
Tim Duncan comes down from an alien spaceship off of an uncharted planet and says, I need one of your Temple basketball players to play on my team, and we're going to try and save the earth. What player of this Temple basketball team has, basically, in a more simpler term, NBA possibility?
Quentin
Rose?
Quentin Rose.
I'd love to say Shiz Alston, because I do think he's severely underrated, but Quentin he moves the ball better.
Because I just like Quentin, his athleticism with his lengthiness, and he does have the ability to shoot already. I like it. I like what I see.
And Dunphy said it best, man. Like, Quentin's just got to stick to his fundamentals, because he relies, and Quentin even knows it. I mean, he knows that he's the guy. And Dunphy relies on Quentin to make plays, shoot, and the fact that he's already only a sophomore, he's averaging this many points and stepping up and
this many minutes, even
this many big plays, and really, I mean, I can't picture this team without Quentin Rose. This team's not that good.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, just with athleticism and all Quentin Rose can do, all of what he can do, he can handle the ball, he can shoot a little bit. He's very shifty, he's very quick, and he's very long.
He's fat. He develops fast.
Exactly, and he's fat. Those are very big things you would like in a player. Those are very big things. And I like him more than over Obi.
It's very, very interesting. That's. But I want you guys to know that's the wrong answer, and we're all dead now.
What's the right answer?
Was Damian Moore, because he's my friend, and he would never let.
He's our friend.
No,
he's our friend.
He played a great game
friend.
last night. Gotta give it to him.
He's our friend.
He played a great game, honestly.
Any final thoughts on Temple Owls before we start to
No
cover?
final thoughts. I really do think they'll take care of GW. I'm really stoked for this Wisconsin.
This
game.
Wisco game's gonna be
It's gonna be
fun.
a lot of fun, especially
Villanova's
St. Joe's,
game
too.
gonna be fun
You can't
too.
knock St. Joe's. A10's an underrated conference, so you can't. Knock
Yeah,
St.
you
Joe's
can't you can't knock a Big Five matchup.
No, you can't. 100%
You can't
not.
like
Well,
it's a Big Five matchup. We'll be
Without
there.
Further a dose.
Further
Further a
ado.
dosian. Let's move on to another dosage of some NFL talk.
Adonis
Because
Jennings.
we don't have much time left with this beautiful baby. Now, in the NFL, there's two tales. The NFL is like two TV shows playing right now. One is like
Okay.
everyone's favorite TV show. It's called the NFC. It's got great episodes, great cast, not that much
No filler, exactly.
No filler.
No, we don't do filler in NFC.
Like basically every game so far has been pretty. Even teams like the Redskins are still playing for playoff spot.
Wait,
Uh,
For some
I think
reason.
I know where you're going with this comparison. And then the AFC is like, you know those shows that always end the same way? They just kind of tweak it up. Like,
The
what's those
AFC
kid
is
shows?
like-
well,
the
like
last
one
season.
of those like sitcom shows where you have like the mother
and
and
it
father
always
and like the
ends
two
the
children.
same.
Exactly.
It's always the same theme, and it
They
always
always
ends
go
the
to
same.
school and they always
That's the
hate it.
AFC with the
I
Patriots.
have a great one. The
Yeah.
NFC is like 24, and the AFC is like every single 24 side show they've ever tried to make.
Okay.
What's
and
that one
failed.
show where like literally like it's the same concept every single show? They just fill it in and fill it out. Maybe it was like
Burn Notice.
Burn Notice is one of those shows. No, it's like Scooby Doo. You know, Scooby Doo, I guess. Even though I love Scooby Doo. You know how like Scooby Doo, you can predict who the bad guy is. Like after you watch enough episodes of Scooby Doo, you're like, all right, I know what's up. All right, it's never the most obvious guy. It's always the guy that in the middle of there's this foreshadow. The big thing is the foreshadow. And
Yeah,
people every
okay.
single year they see this foreshadow with the New England Patriots and they go, maybe this year will be different, or maybe this next episode will be a little bit different. It's like, no, it's the same episode.
It's gonna be
just
Patriots.
the New England
Steelers.
Patriots.
So
yeah.
guys, we can basically agree it's Patriots Steelers AFC Championship
I mean,
game.
maybe there's
Yeah,
some
it
bias
could-
here,
it might
but
not be
yeah.
the
barring
Steelers.
all right, okay. Barring any injury, barring any
basically,
any
those
trades,
guys.
free agency
Le'Veon's
signings or
not
anything
smoking
else.
weed. Antonio Brown's off his phone.
Exactly.
Right.
Ben
Then
Roethlisberger
it'll
is
be
keeping to
Patriots. It should be
himself.
Patriots Steelers.
Everything's all right.
I mean,
Then we got-
say Eli Manning goes to the Jaguars.
Eli Manning goes to. It's not too late for that. No, it's too late for that now, right?
They can work something out.
They could. Well, the trade deadline is over now, right?
Yeah, well, okay, we cut him. Jaguars sign him.
Okay, the Giants are going to do that.
You know,
They're
when
gonna
it's
try and
not
get
too late
something
for,
out
it's
of
not too late to start planning the NFC Championship
But anyways,
celebration here in Philadelphia because
Speaking of which,
I want to get to that. Yeah.
NFC games are the ones we want to talk about. There's three big NFC games we want to talk about, all right? We got Saints versus Panthers, we got Eagles versus Seahawks, and we got Vikings versus Falcons. Those are all big games that's basically going to help decide who's going to get
big.
this first and second seed.
Big, huge.
Right now,
Donald
the
Trump
Eagles are
voice,
standing
gigantic.
Big, it's going to be huge. It's going to be crazy. China, anyways, no, that's not the point. We're going to talk
I
about
know the people running it.
what game do you want to talk about first? I see Michael has Eagles versus Seahawks. Guys, this is Philadelphia.
I mean,
Gets the
you know,
bias.
you know what game we're talking
Eagles,
about first.
Eagles.
All right,
Eagles,
so let's talk about the Eagles.
Thank you.
8:30.
So Carson
definitively-
Wentz. is
Wait,
such
does
a
it say
great
rain
guy.
on AccuWeather? Don't tell me it's gonna rain there.
It may rain. This
Uh-oh.
is Seattle.
That could be a tough.
Uh oh.
It's Seattle. It's always
It's gonna
raining.
be a
It's
very
always gonna be
sloppy, ugly game. So if you have like
Let's check the
numbers
radar.
like 3 and
Okay.
8 on like the
So
So
the
it's gonna be a
polls, you're
run-heavy
good.
game.
All right, so-
if it's raining, that could be good for Seattle because their secondary is very injured. If that's the case, it's going to be a run-heavy game where Seattle doesn't have many injuries on the line.
Seattle can't run.
No, they
Seattle can't
cannot
run.
though. That is the thing.
Oh, I actually saw this stat.
Russell
I saw
Wilson
this stat
can
on
run, though.
Twitter earlier. I saw this stat on Twitter earlier. Russell Wilson is accounting for 91% of the Seahawks points. The last touchdown the Seahawks scored on offense that did not involve Russell Wilson was a 30-yard touchdown run by J or 30 or 20-yard touchdown run by J.D. McKissick in Week 4.
Right.
So it's been Week 4
who
since the
even is
Seahawks
that?
have scored a
Well,
touchdown.
I'll say this is a big game for the
Outside of Russell Wilson.
This is a big game for the Seahawks because they're 7-4. They're one back from the LA Rams right now.
They're 5.5 point underdogs.
who have been playing very
5.5
well.
point.
It's a home game. The Eagles have been playing real well. They had a little bit of rust there coming off that bye. Second half was a lot different. for
Yeah,
them.
for sure.
I think it's interesting to note the rain, how they respond to that offensively. I actually expect this game to be extremely sloppy in the first half, start of the game.
I don't
that's
expect this
possible.
game to be pretty whatsoever. I expect this to be the ugliest football game the Eagles have played this year.
I think the
Yeah.
Eagles' defense alone, with the way they're playing, is going to be way too much for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
because they're not going to be able to run.
and
the ball.
and ugly, I'm taking the healthy, trending upward, defense that is playing good right now, and that is the Eagles.
Yeah, and I think offensively, the Eagles are just way better than the Seahawks. Even though the
It's just the
have Russell
Seahawks are
Wilson.
really just going right down.
But the
they're
Seahawks,
they're
remember
just
what we
going
said?
down.
The Seahawks are always that
They're
one
done.
team that they'll always find a way to be relevant.
But they always find a way to be relevant when Richard Sherman doesn't have a torn Achilles and Cam Chancellor isn't hurt and half their defensive line isn't not healthy.
I know what Taylor means because the Seahawks policy of next man up has been working out for them, but I do know what you mean. losing.
They
Cam
haven't
Chancellor
experienced that yet.
And Richard.
They haven't
Sherman
experienced
and
that yet.
Jeremy
Exactly.
Lane. That's way too
And their
much to the
defensive
point
line,
where-
which was their strong point, which has been struggling, they haven't experienced that yet in their whole Seattle
and the thing
era
is,
of reign.
the pressure could be good, but you're going up against a quarterback
You're
who again, I'm sorry about the bias, but the Seahawks are going to be playing against a quarterback who has done nothing but avoid pressure all year. He has
Exactly.
Carson Wentz has literally found time after time like ways to avoid the sack, and if the Seahawks can't do that, it's not going to happen. And it might be a lot of blitzing, which might cause the Eagles to like either run a little bit or do some other types of stuff. Sorry about that. My apologies, you guys. It's just gonna be a game where the Eagles are gonna win. It's gonna be a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely gonna be hard fought. It's gonna be ugly. But it's going to be dependent if the Eagles can establish the run, because this could be a tricky game where the Seahawks stop the run and the Eagles kind of have to throw their way out of it. And there really hasn't been too many games this season where Carson had to throw his way for a victory.
Yeah.
I mean, he's thrown his way to a victory, but he hasn't have to throw his way
for
to a
the Eagles
victory. You know what I'm
defense,
talking about?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think for the Eagles defense, don't expect too many sacks. Expect a lot of QB pressure, but expect a lot of plays where Russell Wilson's going to
Yeah, expect a lot of plays where Russell Wilson just goes full mad and just scrolls all the way to the right and just does anything and it makes it work, and it will piss everybody off.
You know
it
what's
will.
interesting,
It
though,
will.
is the Seahawks average a lot more yards per passing than the Eagles do, but the Eagles outman them in points per game by a long shot.
Carson Wentz has not really thrown that many passing yards, actually, if you look at it. But at the same time, the way Carson Wentz plays is just the way he manages the game.
Right.
It's just, and also that, you can look at a lot of the Eagles players' stats. Zach Ertz was the first tight end this season, or was the first player this season to get 100 receiving yards in a game.
Yeah, for the
that
Eagles,
just shows you, not only is it Carson Wentz, it's all these players on the team. It's LeGarrette Blount. It's Jay Ajayi. It's Corey Clement.
It's Kenyon Barner.
It's Alshon Jeffrey. It's Nelson Aguilar. It's the entire offensive line.
Matt Collins, for two every
when we
every
put that
two
together,
plays.
I think the thing is, at the end of the day, the Eagles just have a more complete team than the Seattle Seahawks. And you're going to hear that from everybody who says that. And that's why I think the Eagles are going to win this one.
Right. Well, I think the Eagles are going to win this one overall, just based off the fact that Carson Wentz and his defense is just at the top.
What's your
of their
score?
game. Final score of this game? You know, I'd like to give the Seahawks a close game, but I really think the Eagles are just going to kill them. I think it's going to be 42-28.
Oh, 42-28.
Wow.
I'm thinking it's going to be a close one.
Really?
I'm going Eagles 23, Seahawks 16.
I'm going Eagles 16, Seahawks 13
God
overtime.
damn. Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
I think it's going
Mass.
to be that close, honestly. I
Mass,
think
we're
Russell Wilson's
going to be
manage
pulling
it.
each other's eyeballs out tomorrow while watching this game. If that
It's
happens.
not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. But anyways, let's move on from the Eagles. Let's move on to another matchup. Let's talk about Minnesota and Atlanta, because Minnesota is the next best team in the NFC, whether people like to admit it or not. Case Keenum has
AAC.
really
Case
picked
Keenum
up.
is elite.
Case Keenum. But the thing is, I like Case Keenum's figure better than Sam Bradford. You just watch him stand, and he looks so awkward.
Dude,
standing.
Sam Bradford just looks like a bunch of sticks that Sam Bradford looks like like those tongue sticks
It's
you use
so
for your
weird.
tongue, and that you glue together for that project in third grade. That's what he looks like.
On any given day, I don't know who the Vikings starting quarterback and starting running back is, but if I have time to actually look at it, then I do. But the weird thing is, it's the defense, it's the offensive line playing pretty well, and it's the Vikings kind of like the Eagles being a complete team.
I'm actually going to start out with this. I think the Vikings are going to beat them up pretty well. I think Case Keenum overall has been the biggest shock this year. A lot of people want to talk about Carson Wentz, and that's totally respectable. Can we talk about Case Keenum coming from Houston, the AAC quarterback stepping up, and Teddy Bridgewater's absence right now? The Minnesota Vikings, like you noted, are 9-2, the second best team in the NFC, the next best competitor to the team that plays here in Philadelphia that wears green. So I think this is interesting to see. The Falcons overall, what they're going to do, if they're even going to make the playoffs at this point, we'll have to see. That's for the next episode to figure out. But I think the Vikings here are going to beat them up well, and I think they're going to continue to roll. And if I start seeing this out of the Vikings consistently, I'm going to start to have more faith in them, because Case Keenum's been playing unbelievable. I mean, McKinnon at the running back position, I love him, by the way. I love that, how Adrian Peterson just steps out. And then Jerick McKinnon just comes in. It's like, who's this? And then Jerick McKinnon just goes off. So I think Case Keenum's an interesting guy to look at. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph, Jared McKinnon, so many weapons you can get hit with. And I expect the Vikings to win this game by a pretty hefty amount, although my gut feeling is telling me it's going to be close because it's Atlanta and Minnesota. I think the Vikings are
It is at Atlanta.
I think the Vikings are going to squeak this one out 33-31. It's going to be a close game.
Yeah, he's already got the predictions out right away.
He's coming in quick. Taylor's calling it a day. He's taking off, I guess.
He's
I'm just playing. What's really interesting is the fact that Minnesota Vikings average just as many yards as Atlanta Falcons on offense. That's the big thing for me. I mean, we knew about the Vikings defense.
The Falcons' offense has also dropped down.
Yeah, I mean, we knew about the Vikings defense, and I'm not taking whole Vikings defense as better or worse than last year. Honestly, they're the same. The difference with the Vikings this year is their offense is good. Their offense is getting the job done, but it's going to come to a point where it's going to be weeks 15, 16, 17, 14 in playoffs, and it's going to be, okay, is Case Keenum going to get it done? Because, yeah, Case Keenum's getting it done in weeks 8, 9, 10, 7, 6, all those. But, so did, the likes of Jeff Garcia. So did the likes of Jay Cutler. So did the likes of all those people. So we're going to start seeing what the Vikings are going to be really made out of, especially Case Keenum, and it's going to be starting in this game because it is a Falcons game. Falcons team who has won 3 straight and is trending upwards after a very ugly start, especially
There's one at Seattle.
Yeah, especially home games against, earlier in the year against the Dolphins and the Bills, games they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Then they beat Seattle in Seattle. Now they have a home game against the Vikings, who are second in the NFC right now. And it's going to be a big game for the Falcons, so it's going to really be a nut up or shut up game for Case Keenum. Okay, Case Keenum, you're doing really good. You're beating a Rams team at home. You're doing all this, looking all good. Okay, we're in Atlanta against a team you might see in the playoffs. Do something. Let's see what you're made out of.
Yeah.
This is going to be a real nut up or shut up game about Case Keenum right here.
What's your score, Mike?
It's going to be close. It's going to be ugly, but I think the Vikings squeaked this out. I'm going 26-24 Vikings.
26-24, that's a close one. I like that. For me, I got to go with the Vikings on you with this one. I think the defense, the way Matt Ryan's been playing, I think ever since, and I don't want to say it this way, but ever since that Super Bowl loss, even though the Falcons have found themselves winning some games recently, they just haven't found a way to really end a lot of games properly. Now, I know that's kind of contradictory considering they just beat Seattle in a close game and won it out in the end. The thing is, Atlanta is just a team that cannot really, find themselves in the situation of, adjust, kind of like the Cowboys. I don't think anyone really talks about the Falcons, but the Falcons can't really adjust. A second-half team that, the Falcons can't adjust, and, it didn't win them the Super Bowl, and I'm not sure if it's going to win them a game against the Minnesota Vikings, because that defense is going to... The only problem they're really going to have to face is Julio Jones. I think that run defense is going to stuff Devontae Freeman.
Xavier Rhodes and Julio Jones is going to be an awesome matchup.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, Julio Jones is gonna have, fun. But I do think Julio Jones, Julio Jones will have a great game, because Julio Jones is a great receiver. I can't really deny that. But will Julio Jones be enough to win it? No, because the Falcons have had plenty of losses where Julio Jones kills it, and then they lose the game because you can't just win a game off Julio Jones.
Yeah.
The Vikings, like Taylor said, Jerick McKinnon has stepped in, has provided more than enough. Case Keenum, same thing. You have it behind a solid offensive line. You have Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, who are, if you're a PPR
talk about
fantasy,
Adam Thielen. Excuse me, Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice.
Pretty much.
But
he doesn't have the touchdowns, but it's crazy.
I'm not sure if I read this right somewhere. Adam Thielen is the first Vikings receiver for a couple years now to get 1,000 yards.
Yeah, he's the first Vikings receiver to have 1,000 yards by the end of November since Randy Moss.
Before it blanks.
Wow.
Before it blanks. Remember the days of, it was Percy. Remember when Brett Favre was there?
Percy, don't tell me
Percy Harvin.
Oh, Percy Harvin.
And then it was Sidney
Rice.
Sidney Rice.
Oh my God, Sidney Rice.
Wow.
Sidney Rice was nice.
Wow.
Sidney Rice.
And then Greenway at the tight end position or whatever.
Chad Greenway. Chad Greenway.
No, don't say. Oh my gosh.
Asante Shenko.
No, not
Jared Allen. Jared Allen.
No, not Asante Shenko. The other tight end with the cool name, Klein Saucer.
Ooh.
Remember that? Remember Klein Saucer?
Remember Jeremy Shockey out of nowhere?
Jeremy Shockey. All right, before we have a little nostalgia battle going on here, let's move on to the last game. But quick for my prediction for this one.
Yeah, get your prediction out, please.
I'm going to go Vikings win this one. They're going to probably stifle the Falcons offense. I'm going to go 27-16.
I've always liked that word, stifle.
It's going to be an ugly game for the Falcons offense, 27-16.
NFC South divisional matchup.
Oof, Saints versus
8-3 for first place in the division. First place.
As much as I love Drew Brees, as much as I love Drew Brees, the Saints were exposed against the Rams. The Saints were exposed.
Well, the Saints did beat the Panthers 34-13 in Carolina, but that's when the Panthers were not
the Panthers are picking up right now.
Well, that was their only loss at the time. Well, are the Panthers picking up though? Come on, I was like,
have they picked up?
But are the Saints even real? That's the thing.
Honestly, though, have the Carolina Panthers ever picked up?
Because if you think about it, Are the Saints really real? I don't think they are, because I've been hearing this last talk. Oh, they've handled a harder schedule.
Dolphins,
Well,
Lions,
okay,
Packers,
Dolphins,
Bears,
Jake.
Buccaneers,
Okay, the
Bills.
Lions. Yes, I mean, but you won 52-38. That was just a game where like there was deflections. You know, 1 year it was that was just a game that was just nonsense. I have no idea what was going on. That game was just crazy. So that game can just be an outlier, because yes, that was a good team, but that game was just wild. Yeah. But the Brett Hundley led Packers, Mitchell Trubisky led Bears, Ryan Fitzpatrick led Buccaneers. That was Tyrod Taylor led Bills, and Kirk Cousins giving you a scare in the Superdome. Where is the harder schedule than the Eagles? Where is it? Tell me.
This Panthers
tell me where it
doesn't
is.
look any much better
It's nowhere. I don't see it just as hard as the schedule as the Eagles. I don't see it.
There's so many bad defenses. They're averaging 400 plus yards per game, and if you look at the stats, you can't really say like, oh well, the Saints are going to win this game, because in comparison to the Carolina Panthers on the offensive side of the ball, they have way more points. They have way better players. You can't really say that, because this is very even to me, because the Saints I don't believe are real, but neither are the Panthers in my opinion. But
it all depends on Cam Newton. If Cam Newton doesn't want to be an idiot one game, they'll be fine. But if Cam Newton just decides not to play,
I like New Orleans at home here. I honestly like New Orleans at home.
Yeah.
I think this game's going to be decided on a field goal. I don't know
Do
about
you
guys.
think, even though we have Atlanta possibly losing, we all said they were going to lose to, or you said Atlanta, or whatever. If Atlanta loses or beats the Vikings, do you think the loser of this game is de facto kicked out of the playoff race, especially since it's the Panthers, because then there'll be an 0-2 drought to the Saints? Do you think the Panthers will be out of the playoff?
I think they'll
be out of the playoff race.
Well, I think they'll find a way to knock them out, but it's all dependent on what happens in the final coming weeks here with the Saints overall. Because when we look at the schedule, Mike, if you just wouldn't mind, for a second there, sorry. If we look at Atlanta's schedule here, the remaining schedule, they got to play. They have to play the Panthers again.
They have to play the Panthers week 17. So week 17, Panthers Falcons. Yeah. That could be a wild card playing game. They're playing the Vikings.
They got to play the Saints, the Buccaneers, whatever, and then the Saints again.
Still 3 rivalry.
They play the Saints too.
Exactly. Those are still division games, and 2 of them are on the road. That is difficult.
Yeah,
that's
and I know
tough.
It's the Ryan Fitzpatrick led Bucks. Possibly. At that point, it probably still will be.
It's a Monday night game for some reason.
But
Jesus.
I don't know if the Falcons. The Falcons, I don't know if they can win that game. The thing is, I'm not sure if any of these NFC South teams are real.
I just think overall,
the NFC South is so fluctuating.
With the loss of Kyle Shanahan at the offensive coordinator position, I just think Matt Ryan hasn't been clicking like he did last year when he had that former coaching staff. It's definitely, that was the big thing in the offseason. When Atlanta lost that Super Bowl, it wasn't about how was Atlanta going to respond to that. It was how is Atlanta going to respond to losing Kyle Shanahan, and how are they going to respond to losing all those guys on the coaching staff, because it was a totally new look this season. And we knew what they were getting into. I expected this from the Atlanta Falcons. I didn't think they were going to bounce back, especially after losing in such fashion in the Super Bowl. But what I did not expect was for them to be 7-4 right now in this position, because to be honest, when I watch the Atlanta Falcons this season, I don't have a lot of faith in them overall, and I think they'll somehow get a playoff spot, but it's all dependent on these two teams, in my opinion. I think the Panthers, if the Panthers can beat the Saints and they can go 9-3, I'll have faith in the Panthers, but if the Panthers lose this game, I think it's Saints-Falcons, because at that point, I've said, you know what, Cam Newton, you've had your chance here, you've had your situations, you've had your scenarios, and since that Super Bowl, Carolina offensively, defensively is not the same team. They're not as stacked as they used to be. And even if they do get that one playoff spot, they're not a team that's going to push you deep into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I think if the Saints want to make this a race between them and the Falcons, they have to beat the Panthers, because then they'll get the Falcons, then they'll play the Jets, and they'll play the Falcons again. So Falcons and Saints still have 2 more matchups before the season ends. So if the Panthers win this game, I'm not scared of anybody coming out of the NFC South if I'm anybody else in the NFC, honestly, because it just shows you I don't think the Saints are real, Panthers aren't real, and the Falcons haven't proven to me they're real yet. So this could go any way, and if the Saints lose this game, there's a very high chance they could find themselves not making the playoffs at the end of the year, because that could turn into bad losing to the Panthers, even worse losing to the Falcons in Atlanta, because that's a tough game. Trap game with the Jets, you never know. Then Falcons, Buccaneers ended off 2 division games. The Saints could find themselves not making the playoffs, and we'll be like, what the heck just happened to the Saints?
Well, I'm
This
gonna go.
this could really turn things around. This game is huge in the landscape of how the NFC is going to play
Yeah,
out.
you know what the funny thing is? Actually, I don't think this is gonna shape up. I think this is gonna shape up the NFC South. I think all three of these teams, though. I gotta be honest. I'm looking at their schedules. I don't think any of these three teams are gonna make any noise in the playoffs. It's gonna be Vikings, Seahawks, Eagles. Because I gotta be honest. I'm looking at this right now.
They're going to get beat up playing all these division games.
No, real quick though. Look at these. These teams have played in some very bad schedules. The Panthers have beat 49ers, Bills. Okay, they did beat the Patriots by 3, but then they beat the Lions, and then they lost to the Bears. They beat the Bucks, and then the Falcons, who I'll get onto later, Dolphins and Jets. Then we got the Falcons, who I'll talk about. Or I'm sorry, the Saints, who I'll talk about. He beat the Panthers, Dolphins, Lions, Packers, Bears, Bucks, Bills, and Redskins.
Brent Hundley led Packers, by the way.
And let's not forget to mention that the Falcons have beaten more or less of the same and have lost to about the same. And it's like at the end of the day, guys, none of these teams are gonna make it that good. I think honestly right now there's probably only 4 good teams in the NFL, or 5 good teams: Patriots, Steelers, Eagles, Vikings, and Seahawks.
Okay, so regarding around our point of covering these 3 games
and
in the
Rams.
whole
I'm
NFC.
so sorry, Rams, Jared
Okay.
Goff. That's true.
Okay,
that's not fair.
so regarding why we covered these 3 games and the whole NFC landscape, how do we see it playing out? Who are the best teams? Who are the teams that, if we're Eagles fans like we are, we should be worried about? Or is anybody NFC in general?
I really don't see too many threats. I think the best teams, from everything I've seen evaluating everything, is with Greg Schiano. I like the LA Rams, and I like the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
Now, are the Minnesota Vikings real or not? Like Mike said, that's up for Case Keenum to decide.
Yeah.
And that's up for the Minnesota Vikings defense to decide, too, because if they can stay consistent and Case Keenum can keep this La La Land wonder story going, I mean, the Vikings are a pretty good football team, but I'd pick the LA Rams over the Minnesota Vikings for some reason, because I like Greg Schiano as a coach, and I like the direction that the LA Rams are going in. Now, in regards to your question, Mike, it's the Rams and Vikings, because, as Matt said, the Panthers, Falcons, Saints, that's not a threat to the Eagles. The Eagles can handle all 3 of those teams. It's their opposition and the coaching on the other side in Craig Schiano in LA. I think the Rams, Eagles would be an interesting NFC Championship matchup if it decided to play out, or if it was, if there was ever a scenario where that would happen. So would the Vikings, Eagles, but there's not too much threat. I mean, the Eagles just have a better team. It's a team game. You know what I mean? The Vikings may have this great defense. Well, the Eagles have a great defense and they have a great offense. The LA Rams have this great coach team. You can't guarantee that Jared Goff's going to be the guy to lead you to the Super Bowl. You can guarantee, though, that Carson Wentz, with the way he's playing, you can guarantee with all that experience and talent you have on defense that the Eagles are going to give you a better game and a better run for your money. So there's really no threat, but there are teams that I believe can give them a good hard fight that are knocking on the door, haven't quite opened the door yet, haven't quite found the key to unlock the door, and I think that right now that's the Rams and Vikings.
I think there are 6 teams in the NFL this year that are actually good, and I've already said it. It's the Patriots, it's the Steelers, it's the Eagles, it's the Vikings, it's the Rams, and wow, that's 5 teams. I am an idiot.
You are an idiot.
That's quite all right. Yeah.
You want to say the Jaguars? Say the Jaguars. Say the Jaguars. No,
I think
you
the
want to
Jaguars
say
and
it.
Titans
You
are
want to
teams that can
say
win.
it.
That's 5
You want to
teams.
say Jaguars. Here, I'll
But
give
anyways,
you. I'll give you your
I thought
16.
there was a 16, but I guess
the 49ers, because the 49ers.
Drake must be messing with my head. The Drake special is still inside.
Drake special
of my soul
I
somewhere.
thought this was going to be the Twilight Zone special.
I don't know. Any last things you guys want to cover on the NFL, NBA?
I'll say this. One last thing I'd just like to throw in there. The number 9 spot in the power rankings in the AFC, the Los Angeles Chargers. I really do think the LA Chargers, with how the Kansas City Chiefs have declined, we saw the remainder of the year for the Chargers. It's not that hard of a schedule. The Chiefs really, really do look bad. And when I look at the bigger picture, they're 5-5, or excuse me, not 5-5. They're 5-6. Not a glamorous record at all, but they have the Chiefs coming up at Arrowhead Stadium. They have the Raiders, another divisional matchup in LA. They have the Redskins, a game they should win. The Browns, a game they should win. I think they'll easily get their record up to 7-6 going into that Chiefs game. It's a matter of what they do in that Kansas City Chiefs game. I think if they beat the Kansas City Chiefs here, the Chargers get that AFC West. They slip up in there. They get a playoff spot. First year in LA behind,
and then they lose to the Patriots 37.
Exactly. Andy Lynn is their head coach. But honestly, though, overall, I think the Chargers are a very overlooked football team.
Okay.
Phillip Rivers is a great quarterback.
Okay.
They've done that. And receiving-wise, if they stay healthy, and I've said this year after year after year, if the Chargers receivers stay healthy, they're a great football team, and they're well coached. They're better coached. They're not quite there with Anthony Lynn, but in their first year in LA, I really like what I see, and I think they're that surprise team in the AFC right now over the Jaguars.
I swear, if there is a playoff game in a soccer stadium, an American soccer stadium that only seats 40,000 people in Los Angeles, I will lose my mind. Because if the Chargers win his division, get a home game, I will lose my mind. Like this will be. I wonder if the Chargers will actually get home fans at that game if they have if they host a playoff game. I will love to just like have everybody pulled like when they're walking in to see the ratio of like what team they root for, and I guarantee you will not be a majority.
No, they're
of the
going to
Chargers.
move it to London.
God
or
damn.
Mexico City.
God
because we know how the NFL
There's
is.
no
Now.
way they're building that
Jesus.
stadium in LA. It's cost them too much money. They've gotten this far. The Chargers are in LA, whether you want them to be or not.
No, it's
and
not.
it stinks to say that, but like I said, it wouldn't.
San
have worked.
Diego's not getting
Well, it
not
wouldn't have
fixing
worked
anything.
in San Diego. They would have had to up the prices and everything, and fans.
Well,
wouldn't
yeah,
come.
and San Diego's not.
Fans
gonna-
don't come in LA. I mean, I didn't even expect them to come in San Diego in the past final years, and that's all due respect. They were awful their last 3 years in San Diego.
Yeah, now they could host a playoff game and they could not even sell out their 40,000 seat stadium.
Yeah, well, I think they will. I mean, honestly, I know you have this apparently grudge against the Chargers, but the
No, I have a
Bengals-
grudge against LA football.
Well, LA is a circus. I mean, we said this how many shows ago? I've said this from the start. Los Angeles has to be, if not the worst football town in America. And I've said that. I've made that point clear. It is an awful football team, or an awful football team. Awful football town. Was an awful football team getting there. The Bengals are not good. The Bills are going to fall back. And what's the Ravens really? Well, why are the Ravens there? I really do think the Chargers are going to get in here. And Mike, I would start to prep yourself because there may be a playoff game in LA. There may be 2 playoff games in LA.
Oh my goodness,
And there's gonna
2
be a
playoff
Super
games
Bowl
in
between
LA.
a New England team and someone else.
No.
Anyways.
Okay, so say they make the 4 seed. They're going to need the AFC South to lose. Yeah, that's possible. Yep. Oh boy. This sucks.
Well, on a closing statement, we just want to say we're very proud of the Jets for getting 4 wins this season.
We are actually very proud for
you
the
guys did a
Jets.
great job.
They're better than what 1, 2. They
The
are
Texans don't count 'cause it's
better than the
mathematically. They are
Broncos.
mathematically better than 5 teams in the AFC. We're gonna say 4 because one of those teams
Is missing Deshaun Watson.
does not belong in the NFL. I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns.
That's true.
They're just there for name purposes. I don't even think they're a real member of the NFL. They're just here.
Do they even pay dues?
I don't think they pay dues.
They just get first round picks and waste money.
Okay,
on jerseys.
you
Anyways.
guys want to hear something really funny real quick? The 49ers beat the Giants. Giants beat the Chiefs. Chiefs beat the Patriots and Eagles. 49ers are the best team in the NFL.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on this special episode of TFL. My name is Massimo Marcano, and here today with my 2 lovely hosts, Michael Zingroni and Taylor Snyder. We wish you guys a happy and safe weekend. Guys, do you want to say any last goodbyes?
I think the worst part about watching Temple basketball is having to wait to watch them again. I'm counting down the days till Sunday. Go Owls, looking for a big win over Georgia Washington. Go Pats too. I do think still lone favorite in the AFC. Celtics look great. Kyrie Irving, I'm head over heels in love with them. So good weekend coming up in sports. Going to be glued to my couch here with my esteemed colleagues watching college football all day Saturday.
One thing we will not be watching is hockey because hockey is no longer fun. Right. I liked hockey. I used to love hockey, actually. Ask these 2 guys. I used to love it. Now I don't. The Flyers lost 9 straight, and quite frankly, it could turn into 35 because it is the Philadelphia Flyers, and whether we like it or not as Flyers fans, we will get screwed over one way or another. So just enjoy how bad we are now because we will be good eventually. Not now, but eventually. So you don't need to watch them right now. Just watch the Sixers. So just forget about this whole thing we call hockey for a little bit.
And always remember Minnesota Golden Gopher football. Anyways, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to follow us at TFL Sports Talk on Twitter. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.